Hello and welcome. I'm Chris Principe, publisher of Financial IT, and I'm really pleased to be here at Sibos, the huge Swift International Banking event. Every year is the highlight of my year and for many of the bankers here. And here is Beijing, China. We're located in one of the great capitals of the world, a financial capital, a business capital, and a really interesting city. And one of the interesting things about it is it's the first time Swift has brought Sibos to China. So we've all had a great time. There's probably more than 10,000 bankers here, banks from all over the world, software companies from all over the world, providers, service, and me. So with me, I'm really pleased to introduce to you Anu. Anu, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. It's been an interesting conference so far. Very excited to be in Beijing. Sibos is always quite an exciting conference to be in. So I'll introduce myself first. I'm Widyalankara. I'm a director in the UK payments practice, and I specialize in payment strategy and technology. I've been in payments for about 15, 16 years now, and I try to deliver complex transformation for my clients. And what that means is I look after things like greenfield, brownfield expansion for clients, look at regulatory compliance, and also organizational change. And there's a lot going on in payments. A lot of innovation at the heart of what we're doing across the globe where payments are concerned. If I take a few examples, real-time payments is one of the most topical things we talk about these days. UK with faster payments in 2008 pioneered real-time payments. And then we saw India with UPI, Australia with AP Plus, and we've seen Canada now develop their new payments platform where real-time payments are concerned as well. And then related to that, cross-border payments, because we are becoming more and more global citizens. So it's very important to look at instant cross-border payments to enable some of that transformation. So I'm very excited to see some of the technologies that are being built out in that space. I've just been in a panel at Sibos talking about exactly this topic. Lots of new developments here because a number of actors kind of bringing in new networks into cross-border payments. We're talking about peer-to-peer networks. We're talking about Swift and what Swift is building out around ISO 2022. We talk about core payment platforms, national infrastructure that are interoperating to create cross-border payments, enable cross-border payments as well. And there's technologies like CBDCs, DRT, tech-based technologies that are building the foundation for cross-border payments and real-time payments. So there is a lot going on in payments. So it's an exciting space to be in.
Well, for me, that was really interesting because I've done many Siboses and I've seen kind of a transformation in Sibos going from more correspondent banking to then a little bit of trade to then more technology. But now payments is really standing up on its own. And it's the talk of everything at Sibos today. Especially, you mentioned real-time payments, but more importantly, instant payments. So, of course, we all want to get paid faster. How are you helping your customers do that?
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand what use cases really apply to real-time payments and instant payments, because you don't want instant payments in all instances, right? If you're doing a high-value transaction, for example, property transaction, you want to take your time. You want to make sure that you're doing the right level of, you've got the right level of control, you're doing the right level of checks before you settle on the transaction. So it really depends on the use case that they're trying to drive. In the consumer retail space, yes, real-time payments is quite prevalent. And that's what we're trying to drive with the new payments vision in the UK, with what Canada is building with NP Plus. There is a lot to do in the consumer retail space where real-time payments are concerned. And then coming back to what I was talking about earlier around CBDCs, DRT-based platforms, because that is very interesting technology infrastructure that enables atomic settlement for real money, and that really enables trade as well. So, yeah, very, very excited to see where instant payments are going in the future.
Well, I tell you make it sound really exciting and interesting and fun, but there must be challenges. What are some of the challenges?
I think one of the challenges is because it's driven by public sector, and because it's driven by government, there's a lot to do where competition and innovation is concerned, right? Because this is a space that is fundamental to the consumer, and the consumer is fundamental to, where fraud and anti-financial crime is, anti-fraud and anti-financial crime is related to. So when you're developing core national infrastructure where real-time payments are concerned, you need to make sure that you've got the right controls in place. So that's the thing I think that worries a lot of us. We know APP fraud has been quite a big challenge, especially in the UK since COVID. So when we look at things that things like real-time payments, which are atomic settlement. It's one and done. You're not going to get your funds back. You need to make sure that you've got the right controls around what you're building. So I think the thing that worries me is I think we need to do a lot more where anti-fraud and financial crime is concerned, and the technology that we're building around that.
I mean, some of the things that you just mentioned are very important, but I think for most people, even companies as well as personal people, they don't really see everything that goes on in the back. And there's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of safety that happens.
Yeah.
Fraud is such a concern, so this is the space that really needs a lot of help.
Absolutely. I think that's where we come in. And that's why I said the second topic I mentioned that I help clients with is around regulatory compliance. Because it's not just about compliance anymore. With the mandatory reimbursement regime in the UK, you are now liable for half the fraud if they do take place in your ecosystem. So it does have a massive impact on your bottom line. So clients now need help to address some of these challenges that we're facing. Not just in the UK, this is a trend that we're seeing that's been adopted globally as well. So yes, challenges, but that means we get to find solutions, which is the exciting bit for me.
Well, it sounds to me like you look at challenges as opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
And where do you see them more? Is it with the traditional large banks? Do you see the smaller banks? Or do you see some of these new banks who have the latest technology because there's no legacy technology to deal with?
I think it depends. I think absolutely legacy does play into it because the larger you are, the older you are, the more unknowns you have in your ecosystem. So I think it's harder to solve for because you don't know where you need to start. But on the flip side, when you're a new bank, you tend to take more risks. Or you're a new financial service provider, you tend to take more risks. And that does put you in a bad place. But we can see regulators stepping in now. For those of you who have seen the CEO letter that came out by the FCA very recently around consumer duty, that clearly talks about safeguarding and some of the controls that you need to put in place where these newcomers are concerned. So I think it's important to understand, regardless of how long you've been around the block, it's all about how do you take into account the most current in this space, in the control space, and address that in your existing.
For me, what you touched on was really interesting, especially when we start talking about the larger banks with the fintech companies or any banks really with the fintech. There's such different cultures and mindsets. And I always look at EY as the ability to be the glue in between.
Yeah.
So how can you really be able to occupy such a unique space?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think it's the fact that we have a lot of diversity of thought internally, and there's a lot of cross-pollination that goes on as well. We learn a lot from larger banks. We learn a lot from fintechs, and that results in a lot of innovation in the ecosystem at large. And it's always exciting to see what's coming up in the market, and we connect the dots. I think we bring fintechs to our larger customers, and large customers learn from them. So I think I mentioned greenfield, brownfield. So absolutely, this is where we play into that. Let's bring the best of fintech into the wider ecosystem and help incumbents build out their technology.
Well, I like what you just mentioned, the best of fintechs, the best of technology. And we're here at Sibos, which brings all of that together with the traditional banking community.
Yep. So
how do you find Sibos? Why are you here at Sibos? What's the benefit of Sibos for you?
Oh, well, this is my seventh Sibos, I think. I love the energy at Sibos. Every year, there's always something new and there's always something to learn about. And it's where we meet our clients. I think it's a safe space. We all get together at Sibos because it's a community that we feel, very comfortable talking to each other about the most topical things where payments and financial services are concerned. And everything happens here. We've had a lot of announcements from different clients around new products and services. We've had announcements from Swift as well. So there's a lot that goes on in Sibos. So that's exciting for me.
So you mentioned Sibos for you, for all of us really, is a safe place to exchange ideas and everything. So but going maybe a little beyond the safe space.
Yeah.
Can you give us some insight into what the future may hold, both for EY and as well as your own personal views on the industry based on your years of experience?
Oh, many different ways in which it could go. But I tell you what I'm hopeful for. I think I'm hopeful for a more interconnected, better connected global, a global world that's more better connected. When you talk about cross-border payments, enabling global trade, when we talk about the upcoming generations who want everything to be efficient, everything to be as real time as possible, you need that. Especially with payments, like I said, you need to make everything really interconnected. So I think for me, the future looks like a network of intricate payments connecting everyone together and enabling cross-border payments and cross-border trade so that everyone can be a global citizen, regardless of whether you are an individual or a business. I think that's where I like to see things go.
But hey, I like that vision very much. You know, it's all about everyone coming together, working together
As much as we
seamlessly.
can. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do want to thank you so much for spending some time
Thank you
with
so
us.
much for having me.
Really been interesting to speak with you. Best of success going forward and enjoy the rest of your Sibos.
Thank you so much.
Chris Principe, Financial IT.